Welcome to Creepypasta. Please like, share and subscribe. This will help us make more content for you. Thank you.
My mother had memories of someone I'm dating before I'd even met him. Nearly 5 years ago now, I was dating a guy called Charlie. My mom felt terrible because she could never remember his name and always called him Jacques. We always poked fun at her. Well, we live in the UK. How do you remember Jacques, but not Charlie? After we broke up, my mom continued to ask me how Jacques was, and particularly about his dog, what she believed to be a Labradoodle. Charlie had a dog, but definitely not a Labradoodle. My mom insisted I'd sent her photos of this dog that didn't exist, all the while referring to Jacques. Sometimes it would get on my nerves, as she'd completely fabricate memories of stuff I'd done with Charlie. I thought she was winding me up. Fast forward to now, I'm currently in the beginning stages of dating a guy, surprise surprise, called Jacques. You can probably guess what kind of dog he has too. I haven't told him yet, didn't want to freak him out, scare him off, but my mum and I have been in a constant state of what the hell since I met him. We think that some of the memories she used to make up are things we'll do in the future. Edit, I still get a lot of notifications about this, but don't have the energy to reply to everyone, sorry. We're living quite far away from each other now, so haven't properly started dating, but we're best friends and both admitted to wanting to date as soon as we're back together IRL. Hopefully soon. I don't think Mum's predictions had a global pandemic in the equation. But yes, it's going well for everyone who has asked, thank you.
Comments. My mom had something similar. She said she had a dream or a vision at some point that was extremely real, like a memory from the future. I went to my prom in a yellow dress and I was with a tall guy, with black hair, taking pictures under an arched doorframe. When it didn't happen, and I went to prom in a green dress with a guy with blonde hair, she seemed disappointed. Fast forward 13 years, and my niece was going to prom in a yellow bell dress, with her black-haired boyfriend, and she came to my mom's for pictures. The living room doorframe is arched. She said it was exactly like her memory.
I have had visions of my own future, it is weird. They are like daydreams, but slightly different. 2 significant ones had to deal with my ex-husband. I had a vision of going to visit in-laws, and getting helped out of the car, turning around and seeing a specific row of trees. We were in the country. What was weird was that I was dating a different guy at the time. We were getting serious and talking about meeting our parents, but he said his lived in town. We broke up, I never met the other guy's family, and when I started dating my ex, we went to stay at his parents. The exact scenario happened. We were in the country, he helped me out of the car, I turned around and saw the exact row of trees from my vision. My heart skipped a beat. A few years later, I had another vision of my ex, a lot older and very pale, in a coffin. It scared me. Several years later, my ex had cancer. He was very pale, and extremely sick. We didn't know if he was going to live through it. He almost didn't. This is when we started having major problems with our marriage. He had the look of my vision of when he was in the coffin. My ex made it through the treatments and we stayed together for another 3 years. It has been 8 years, and he is still cancer-free. However, we are divorced. I won't go into all of our problems, but my ex was upset, and went into a deep depression, and wouldn't get help. He became angry and bitter. Yes, he lived, but he, and our marriage, wasn't the same. The vision. I interpreted it as the death of our relationship, since he looked exactly like the person in the coffin at the height of his illness. Not all visions are literal, I guess.
I created my boyfriend in The Sims years before I met him. When I was a teenager, living in Vienna, in the small country Austria, I excessively played The Sims. I created all kinds of families there, with all kinds of crazy stories. Most of them were unrelated to anyone I knew, just straight out of my imagination. As the game got developed to the Sims 4 version, the details got very much on point when it came to creating your Sims. I was always very hesitant to create myself or anyone I knew, because I would feel bad of anyone dying in the game, as they would portray my real-life people. I also didn't want to put anything out there, if you know what I mean, like attract anything bad. With The Sims 4 though, I decided to create myself, with a different last name though, matching my Sims husband's last name. The husband was of color as my celeb crush was 50 Cent, I was 17 by the way, was wearing a black tank top, camouflage pants, trainers, and a black watch. They lived a happy life together, had kids, and I made sure that they died peacefully, as I did believe in attracting situation. I met my boyfriend 2 years ago, after I moved to London. We are in a very happy relationship. One day we were at a market and it was really hot, so I bought a dress, so I can change into something more light, and my boyfriend bought some pants in thin material. He asked if I liked them and I turned and it was some camouflage sweatpants. I said yes, and we proceeded to go home. We lived a minute away, to change. We changed our clothes and my boyfriend asked me if he looked good. I finished dressing up and looked at him to check his clothes, and he was wearing a black tank top, the camouflage sweatpants, trainers, and a black watch I had just bought him as a present some weeks ago. I immediately realized he looked like my husband in the Sims I created years ago. I started laughing and told him, "You look like my Sim." He looked at me confused, and as I told him what I meant, he told me, "Oh, so you attracted me into your life," with a cheeky smile, and I guess he was right. That was my most glitch moment I have ever had, but I don't regret at all. Edit. Some extra info I forgot to mention. I also remember I created the husband, and many other husbands for my Sims, with the traits of an artist, as I wanted to have nice pictures in the house of my Sims. My boyfriend is an artist himself, and we have loads of pictures up he drew. If this is the Matrix, they really pay attention to detail.
The Sims is kinda creepy that way. I usually create myself, and it tends to look like real life. Once I was playing, and my Sim had a ginger guy as her best friend. One day I showed my Sim, and the friend, to my sister, and she pointed out that he looked exactly like my best friend in real life. Mind you, I did not create that Sim, and I hadn't noticed this until now. I looked at his face more closely and he really looked like my friend. Also, once a friend of mine had created herself and her boyfriend. Her Sim was pregnant, so she wanted to see the birth. Turns out that when she starts the game, her Sim had already given birth to her baby, even though she was the only one that played, and the game had named it Antonio by itself. She really started freaking out, because the day before all this happened, some weird woman had told her that there was a ghost of a child following her, and his name was also Antonio. More often than not, I find myself in the same situations I make my Sim self go through.
Completely understood a foreign language for a second. About a year ago, I was at work helping 2 customers fill out some paperwork. They were both Chinese, but one spoke zero English, and the other was translating for him. I sat the paper in front of them and looked down to grab a pen. As I was looking down, I heard one of them clear as day, "Where do I sign my name?" So I looked up with the pen and said, "You sign your name right here, sir." The translator looked shocked and said, "You speak Mandarin?" I had no idea what to say. I was just as confused and shocked as he was. I made up an excuse and said, "I assumed that's what he said," to hide how mind-blown I was, but no, I completely heard and understood him. I don't think he believed me either, because he was giving me that look still. It still freaks me out to this day.
Comments. I had a similar experience a few years ago. I read something online in Latin. I forget what it was about. I understood it perfectly. I never took a Latin class, lesson and never had any exposure to the language. For that one period in time, something just clicked. Verified with Google Translate, and saw my translation was right. Tried to do it after that a few times, and failed miserably. I'm wondering if this isn't a fairly common glitch, or if there isn't some other kind of phenomena behind it.
I believe you. I worked the front desk of a very busy youth hostel, and was training a new front desk employee, when a Japanese tourist came up to me and asked how to get to a major site in the city, and I gave quick directions. The employee I was training was impressed I knew Japanese. I laughed, and told him I don't know Japanese, it's just that, working the front desk, you get very used to hearing tourists with very poor English and just come to know what they're trying to ask, or need help with. But my coworker said he wasn't talking about the tourist spoke no English at all, my coworker said, and I had responded not in English but Japanese. Edited to add, I just want to clarify that, as far as hearing the tourist goes, I 100% understood every word the tourist was saying. I thought he was speaking entirely in English, just so heavily Japanese accented, and with everything pronounced with the wrong emphasis, etc. I came to hear many tourists of many different languages speaking this way, until this coworker, I never questioned that they were speaking English, just that it became a fun trick to decipher the English, kind of underneath what on the surface still sounded like a foreign language.
Do you have a creepy story? Please share it with us in the comments, and we will post it on the channel. Please subscribe. Thank you.